ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for those prayers. And with your permission, I would like to give our viewers a quick recap of our previous session. And this is being live streamed. Thank you. We learned in our previous session about the difference between seeing God everywhere and seeing God in the temple. Well, there is no difference. It goes hand in hand. It's complementary to each other. There is no difference between seeing God in the temple or seeing His presence in every living entity or any matter as such. And Prabhu quoted a very beautiful sentence that if you can't see God, at least see His hand in everything, or rather His signature in everything, every creation of His, or every living entity, and how the whole world operates as such. We even touched upon dietary preferences, vegetarian, non-vegetarian. So between vegetarian and non-vegetarian, the Vaishnavas or the devotees of Lord, they are neither. They are neither vegetarian nor non-vegetarian. Then what are we? Someone can use the chat box to answer this. If you're not vegetarian, if you're not non-vegetarian, what are we then? If you can get your minds thinking around this, anyone coming up with any interesting answers, I'll be more than happy. But before I give out the answer, should I give it out? We are, I'll wait for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We are Krishnatarian, where whatever we prepare, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, we offer to the Lord and then accept as His remnant. With this as the background, Prabhu, we are moving on to the 10th chapter, Vibhuti Yoga. And my first question, Prabhu, for you. My camera again. Yes, my first question, Prabhu, for you is, yes, we've understood from the previous podcast and the previous sessions that Lord Shri Krishna is the creator of everything. Whatever we see around us, He is the creator. But somehow, my mind goes into thinking that, well, half or more than half of the time, I'm being distracted by or being attracted by His creation rather than the creator himself. Everything is made, like you call it glamour, you call it nature, you call it anything, music, people. His creation seems to be more, attractive. So how, is there any way we can develop attraction for the Lord, or what I'm doing, developing attraction for His creation, is that right? Isn't that distraction? Can you please share your thoughts on this one?
Wow, if that reminds me of Srila Prabhupada's prophetic words to one of his disciples, who was, Prabhupada then was on a morning walk, and there was a pretty woman passing by, and this disciple could not help but, look in that direction. And then Prabhupada told him, when he realized Prabhupada is looking at him, he fumbled, and then Prabhupada said, if the creation is so beautiful, imagine how beautiful would the creator be. So Yeah, your words resonate with what Srila Prabhupada said, that we should, when we see the creation, and we see some splendor in creation, some attraction in creation, we should not stop there. As spiritual scientists, we should go one notch deeper. That how beautiful would the creator be? I would like to, really approach that creator. So that's something that comes to my mind. Uh, I would like to tell you a story. It's not a story; it's a real life incident, actually. So the once in New York, in the subway metro station, there was a musician playing violin, and it was early morning time. He was playing his violin very beautifully. In about 45 minutes, he played 6 classical Bosch um, rhythms, classical Western music. He played 6 different rhythms, and which were very uh, pleasing, very attractive. And while he was playing for these 45 minutes, uh, through the CCTV cameras, they counted up that 1,097 people passed by through that metro entrance. And out of these 1,097 people, just 25 of them stopped to give a donation, make a donation, maybe a few cents or $1 or something, and then immediately passed by. There was only 6 people who waited for some time, for a few seconds or a minute, to stop by and listen to his music. Rest, everyone was just passing by in their frenzied pace, not realizing, not paying attention to the beautiful music being played. And this person, he collected $32.17 in those 45 minutes. So this gentleman, uh, as it turns out, who was he? This gentleman who was playing beautiful classical Western music on his violin, although he was playing it to his best capability, but he didn't get much of a response, isn't it? Right? But this personality is none other than Joshua Bell, who is one of the most renowned Western classical musician in the world. And just a couple of days back, he did a concert, and in that concert, uh, all the tickets were fully sold out, and the minimum price was $100. So for the same music which he played in a concert, it was fully sold out, all seats booked, $100 minimum price, and he was playing the same violin which he played in the concert, and this violin cost $3.5 million. So the same person with the same violin playing the same music, at one place he attracts, um, thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. In another place, he's just getting $32.17. And even actually, out of those few people who stopped by, they were mostly children. One 3-year-old child, he just stopped by looking at him, and his mother trying to, pull him, but he's again looking at him. What's this going on? So, wasn't the music as attractive in this setting as it was in that setting? The music was the same. What changed the attraction of the people? Let the chat box get going, dear friends. What was the missing link for Joshua Bell? That his music didn't ring a bell. The atmosphere, okay, yes. the metro station, the busy, the mindset, Supriya says, yes, thank you. So the mindset of the people, what else? Both of these are contributing factors. Let's see what else. Can you think of something else? What was it that people missed? No ideas? Well, the missing, a key factor was missing. When you, what do you think? When they purchased tickets for this concert, why did they purchase the tickets? What did they purchase the tickets for? You can unmute and speak out also. Mansi? So when they purchased the tickets for the concert, what was it that, they bought tickets for?
Was it pleasure, like for enjoyment, or
The ambience. Okay, so let me let me get it to the point. So they booked the tickets for hearing Joshua Bell, because everyone knew who this personality is. They knew the glories of Joshua Bell. They knew what a brand, what a name, what a figure, what a legend this person is in Western classical music. And because they knew the glories, they were drawn towards the music. Now, as he was just playing the same music on the sidewalk area at the metro station, people just didn't know who this person is. They didn't pay attention. There are two factors. There was no awareness of the personality, and there was no attention to the personality. So before attraction comes into play, there has to be, number one, awareness, and number two, attention. So first thing was, the people who are passing by, they were not aware of who this person is, right? Someone having a cap, playing some music. There are many such commonplace musicians who gives it a thought. But this happened to be Joshua Bell, right? So first thing is, they were not aware who this person is, and second thing is, they didn't pay attention because the place was chaotic, right? So these are the two reasons why we don't feel attraction towards Krishna, the all attractive. First of all, we don't know the glories of Sri Krishna so well. That is one reason, primary reason. And secondly, we are in such a place, the ambience of this material world is such a place, is such that there are so many attractions or distractions that we are just, Krishna, as we discussed in the last session, Krishna is everywhere. The signature of God is there everywhere, but we can't just pay attention. So these are the two things. Would you all agree with me that the reason why we are not feeling that attraction towards the Supreme Lord, why we are not feeling that attraction towards the process of devotional service or spiritual life, is because, number one, there's not enough awareness, and number two, there's not enough attention. Yes, makes sense. Now, there's another reason I would like to bring about in the discussion. So before we do that, let's see what Krishna himself says in the 10th chapter. He's like, now it's in the 9th chapter, Krishna has described the process of devotional service, And he knows exactly what would be the obstacle in the path of devotional service, in the path of bhakti, will be that people find it uh, they don't have the attraction to practice this process of chanting, hearing, the whole process of devotional service. They may not have the attraction. They may have alternative attraction, or they may have distractions to take them away. So therefore Krishna brings along a complete section in the 10th chapter, which is about glories and knowledge of the Supreme Lord. So when we are aware of the glories of the Lord, when we are aware of the knowledge of the Lord, when we know the glories of Joshua Bell, we are eager to pay any price to hear to his music. But when we are not aware of his glories, then we may just not even pay attention. 20 people out of 1,000 may pay attention, and out of those 20 also 6 may just stop to hear in detail, but they also might not pay attention. So therefore Krishna says the prerequisite to practicing devotional service is having knowledge of the Lord, hearing about the Lord, and that's what he will do. In the 3rd verse of the 10th chapter, Krishna says, Yo mamajamanadim cha veti loka maheshwaram asamudha samarteshu sarva papai pramuchyate. He says, he who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only deluded among men is free from all sins. So Krishna is saying, therefore, someone who knows me as a supreme person will be purified, fully purified. And then secondly, he says in the 7th verse, Etam vibhutim yogam cha mama yo veti tatvata so vakalpena yogena yujyate natra samshaya. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt. Krishna is saying there is no doubt about it. If you are in awareness of my glories, if you are in awareness of the glories of my opulences, my splendor, there won't be any obstacle, there won't be any resistance. You will be able to practice devotional service very enthusiastically. So that's so we understand the reason why is Krishna going to tell about his glories in the 10th chapter. So that is one thing, how to get attracted towards the Lord by hearing about his glories. And another reason why we don't feel attracted towards Bhagavan, Krishna, or spiritual life, but feel attracted towards material life and material sense objects is because of the exposure. Our window of exposure is so limited that we get attracted to the objects which only come in the frame of that window. So so let me just give you an example. That say suppose there are these 5 koshas, the pancha koshas: annamay, pranamay, manomay, vijnanamay, anandamay. So the animals, they are in annamaya kosh. For them, the entire experience of life is centered around food and sex. So for them, life doesn't exist beyond this. Their window of consciousness is just limited to these things related to the body. So if you take a rat to a very beautiful mansion, a beautiful palace, will it get attracted to the architecture of that palace? Will the rat pay attention to the architecture? Wow, what a chandelier, what an arch. No, the rat has nothing to do with all of that. Will the rat, there's a library in there in that palace. There are wonderful books in that library. Will the rat go and start appreciating, get attracted to those books? No, isn't it? So there are books, there's library, there's architecture, there's music going on in a ballroom. Is a rat going to come there and just take in the beautiful music. No, where is the rat going to go? What is going to draw the attention and attraction of the rat? Is a garbage can, food to eat, right? So why is it? There were other attractive objects, but the rat window of consciousness was so limited that it can only process attraction towards these things. And as the evolution of consciousness takes place, your field of attraction becomes more and more refined, right? For animals and animal-like humans, which is a major chunk of the population, unfortunately today, the window is just related to the senses and the sense objects. So they can't help but just get attracted to eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But as there is more and more evolution of consciousness, you get attracted to finer arts, you have refined emotions, you have quest for knowledge, wisdom, you get attracted to knowledge and wisdom. And ultimately, as our consciousness gets more and more evolved, you get universal consciousness. Right now we are in a sensory consciousness, but when we get a universal consciousness, we get attracted to the creator of the universe, Sri Krishna. So therefore we need to actually expand the field of our consciousness beyond just what is available through the senses, by the process of Shravanam, hearing about Krishna's glories. So if our input is, it is said, garbage in, garbage out. If the input through the ears is what is happening out in Bollywood, in politics, on social media, right? If that is the input, that is the window of our consciousness. We can't help but just get attracted to things on the Annamaya Kosh or on the material plane. If our input is just all of these material news, material objects. But if we really want to refine our degree of attraction, our object of attraction to spiritual, then we need to take in spiritual news from the spiritual world. We need to hear about the glories of Krishna. And the proof is there in the Shastras. Rukmini Devi, she says, Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara shrinvatam te nirvishya karna vivaraiha tonga patapam rupam drisham drishimatam akhilartha labham tvai achyuta vishati chittam apatrapam me. So Rukmini Devi, as the daughter of King Bhishmaka of Vidarbha, from her childhood she had heard the glories of Krishna from the vegetable vendors, from the sages who came in to her palace, like Narada Muni. And by hearing the glories of Sri Krishna from Narada and other sages and other people, her heart got attracted to Krishna. Although she had never seen Krishna, she became sold out. She offered her life for Krishna. So that's the power of hearing. So if our scope of hearing is just, entangled into news, social media, all of these things, basically material sound vibration, that is going to keep us bound to attraction for material objects and material news. But if you want to uplift our attractions, we need to hear the news from the Shastras, from the spiritual world. So that's why we are doing this podcast. Yes, Prabhu, what do you say?
So the incident about Joshua Bell, it reminded me of this a prank that most cricketers used to do. They would disguise themselves as an old fat person, who cannot just play cricket. They just enter a random club, and the kids don't take them seriously. They just make fun of this cricketer, like how ये कैसे खेल पाएगा, इसको तो बैट पकड़ना भी नहीं आता. And the moment they start batting, they just start whipping the bowlers here and there, and then they remove their disguise, and everyone rushes to take autographs, photographs, etc. So yes, once they know the glories, once awareness and attention is there, they pay attention to who the person is, and they're aware of who the person is. Automatically, there is attraction. So yes, that's a very valid point you made, Prabhu. My next question, Prabhu, drives me to ask you that now you mentioned about attraction to the Lord and listening to His glories. You mentioned about Rukmini Devi, but for the normal class of people, there's a belief of this that, you know, if you want to be a true spiritualist situated in knowledge, study the Vedanta, study the scriptures, give attention to detail, you know, leave the sentimentalism. And normally bhakti is termed as more as sentimentalism, where you cry for the Lord, you sing His glory. No, be situated with the truth, read scriptures, be a pandit, and be intellectually situated in who the Lord is and the reality and the truth. Don't get bewildered by Maya. What is your take on this, please?
Yeah, the very frequently misunderstood thing about bhakti, that it is, even I was of this opinion at one point of time, that bhakti means ये तो sentimental लोगों के लिए है, मतलब ये लोग क्या नाचते गाते रहते हैं, and these people really seem to be, you know, full of sentiments, and they are not into serious intellectuals, penetrating intellectual stuff. That's what people assume without trying to understand. So, and it's not unfounded. Their perception and their assumptions are not unfounded. They are because of a reason. And the reason is that when people talk of love in this world, we say, प्यार अंधा होता है, प्यार दीवाना होता है, दिल तो पागल है. So everything about love has connotations of, you know, blindness. प्यार में अंधा होके व्यक्ति कुछ भी कर बैठता है, right? And even they say falling in love, right? So all of these terminologies around love in this world is about, you know, lovers. They are called love birds, love birds, and they act as if, you know, feather brained, very you know, very silly things are done. But so therefore, the whole perception of love in this world for intellectual people is, ये तो मतलब, this is very sentimental, emotional, and it is not founded in any reason and logic, because lovers, these lovebirds, can keep talking for hours together, sweet nothings, which have no meaning, no sense. But that's what love does. It makes people blind in this world, right? But when you talk of love for the supreme, that is called bhakti. And many times that is also assumed to be, अरे इसमें भी sentiments है, इसमें भी प्रेम है, तो शायद इसमें भी it has the same sentimental you know, background. But no, the love for the supreme is you know, poles apart. So if I am not able to pluck the fruits of a tree, of the reflection of a tree in water, right? So I see the reflection of a tree in water, and I see the mangoes hanging in that reflection. I, you know, jump into that water, splash, and I try to reach out to those fruits, but I am not able to pluck them. So what is my conclusion? That there are no fruits. And the real tree doesn't exist. But actually the fact that there's a reflection means that there is a real tree. So the reflection is just reflecting on water, but the real tree is grounded in earth, in the soil. So the love in this world is like that reflection tree, which appears to have fruits, but when you go to reach out to those fruits, It's not there. That love is not there. But the real tree of love exists in the spiritual world. And that tree is grounded in the soil of knowledge. This false reflection tree is on the water of ignorance, but the real tree is planted in the soil of knowledge. And therefore, in the 8th verse of the 10th chapter, which is the first verse of the Chatushloki Gita, the 4 seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So the first verse of this Chatushloki is Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. One who knows that I am the Lord of everything, matta sarvam pravartate, everything is emanating from me. Iti matva, knowing this, having knowledge of this, my devotees worship me with knowledge and devotion, with emotions. Buddha and Bhava. Buddha means intelligence and Bhava means emotions. So the path of bhakti is not devoid of intelligence. It is based on the foundation of intelligence. The tree of devotion has its roots deep in knowledge, right? But that knowledge is not the main thing, right? It's there, hidden, invisible. That knowledge is definitely there, but the expression of devotion, of refined emotions towards Krishna, that's the process of bhakti. So one may just jump to a conclusion that there is no knowledge, but Krishna is saying someone who is rendering bhakti to me, he is full of knowledge of my glories. So yes, there is the knowledge of the Supreme. And now what happens that because some of these dry transcendentalists, dry spiritualists, they might have been burnt out with the love of this world. They might have been burnt out with the relationships of this world, with the emotional turmoils of this world. So they want to just deny the emotions. And they assume that in the spiritual path, there cannot be no emotions, no relationships, and no love, because all of this is just a source of problems. So spiritual life means no problems, which means none of the things which create problems should be there. So love creates problems, relationships create problems, so it should not be there. These are all vestigial parts of our life. Vestigial organ hai, nikal do isko, appendix ko. So basically such dry spiritualists are eliminating 50% of human faculty. There are 2 parts, intelligence and emotions. Just because you could not deal with emotions doesn't mean that those emotions are vestigial. Come to the school of bhakti, we will teach how you can use those emotions to uplift in love rather than falling in love. That's what Krishna is talking of in this verse. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam. Knowing this, having this knowledge, people worship me. And now, as you now this part we have cleared, that bhakti is not sentimental. Bhakti is not based on just some superficial sentimental emotions. It is grounded in deep wisdom and knowledge of the scriptures, knowledge of the Supreme, glories of the Lord. Now, having said that, now let's come to the point of the Vedantic. You said the Vedantic tradition. The people who are intellectual, they study Vedanta. Now we are in the lineage of the Bhakti Vedanta tradition, right? So Vedanta doesn't mean that it's the monopoly of certain traditions which are just based in dry knowledge, right? The path of Vedanta has been established by Srila Vyasadeva. Vedantic traditions are those traditions which emanate from the Vedanta Sutra. So Vyasadeva compiled the Vedas and then he compiled the Vedanta Sutra. The word Vedanta means the the word Veda means knowledge. So the Vedas are books of knowledge. And the word Vedanta means the end of knowledge. So the book which brings knowledge to its culmination. Now imagine, means knowledge is presented here, not the end in itself, but knowledge is presented here as the means which will get you to an end. वेद अंत मतलब वेद नॉलेज का भी एक जगह एंड है, उसके आगे कुछ और है. उसके आगे क्या है? What is it that all knowledge is meant to bring us to? Vedaischa sarver ahameva vedya vedantakrit veda videva chaham. Krishna says in the 15th chapter, from all the Vedas I am to be known, and I am the creator of the Vedanta. So all of this knowledge is meant to bring us to the Supreme and bhakti to the Supreme, love for the Supreme. Because love reigns supreme over knowledge. Love is the greatest motivator in this world, right? So knowledge of the Supreme is meant to bring us to the love for the Supreme. And there are, in the Vedantic traditions, there is Shankaracharya, there is Ramanujacharya, there is Madhvacharya. So while the Sharirika Bhashya of Shankaracharya, Shankaracharya, it gives us the one-pointed pursuit of Brahman, of the impersonal monastic realization of the absolute. But there are other acharyas such as Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who have written their commentaries on Vedanta Sutra, right? For example, Ramanujacharya has written Sri Bhashya. Shankaracharya has written Sharirika Bhashya, which talks about the monastic conclusion of the Vedanta Sutra. Ramanujacharya has written Sri Bhashya, which gives the personal conclusion, the bhakti conclusion of Vedanta Sutra. Similarly, Baladev Vidyabhushan has written the Govinda Bhashya, which again gives a devotional commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So yes, even if you are a follower of Vedanta, ultimately the Vedanta, the end of knowledge, the culmination of knowledge is to come to the path of bhakti, and that's what all of these acharyas have shown through their commentaries. So yeah, both ways, bhakti is meant, bhakti is not based on just sentiment. Bhakti is based on knowledge of the absolute, and bhakti is not sentimental, it refines your sentiments. And when you talk of Vedanta, Vedanta is also meant to bring you to bhakti, otherwise Vedanta is incomplete. So that's our take on this kind of accusation that, oh, the sentimental people practice bhakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as someone who was chanting and dancing all throughout the land of India, he was leveled with the same accusation by the sannyasis of Varanasi, who are from the Advaita Vedantin tradition. And they said, oh, you are just a sentimental bunch of people just jumping and dancing. You are not rooted in any Shastra. But then, quite to their surprise, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented such logic, such reasoning, such Shastras that Prakashananda Saraswati and his 60,000 disciples, then and there, they transformed, they converted to the path of bhakti. So that's the power of Bhakti Vedanta.
Wow. So I love the line that you mentioned. Bhakti is not sentimental, but refines the sentiments. Thank you for that, Prabhu. This thought kicks in that it's such a beautiful form of worship where you can come closer to the Lord. Yet there are so many differences, so many confusions in the material as well as spiritual realm, where people at times spend their whole life with a malified understanding of a different understanding which could have been refined. Sometimes it gives you a feeling that if God personally came and told them that, hey, you're working so hard, just change the direction of your work, just change the direction of your worship, things could have been better. Having said that, we know that God resides within all of us in the Paramatma form. So is there any way where we can connect to the Paramatma, where we can better tune into his instructions or the voice where he speaks to us, and avoid so much of confusion?
Okay, so as what I hear from you is that there are so many, um, priorities in our life. There are so many different ideas that we have, right? To make decisions, to make choices in life becomes very difficult.
Correct.
To really define which is the right priority, which is the right decision becomes very difficult. So could we have a GPS, a God positioning system where, जैसे Google हमको बताता है take a left, take a right, हमारा परमात्मा भी बता लेता, you do this, don't do that, right? So is there a GPS, a God positioning system? The good news is yes, it's there in two forms. GPS also stands for the Gita positioning system. So the word of Krishna, the guidance of Krishna, the instruction of Krishna is already available to us in the form of the Bhagavad Gita, in the form of the Shastra. So what the Paramatma wants to speak to us, he has already written it down or mentioned it in the Bhagavad Gita. So if we have this desire to hear the voice of the Lord, tune into the Gita. That's one place where we can hear the voice of the Gita. But then if you are persistent, नहीं मुझे तो अंदर से आवाज सुननी है, अंदर से आए वो मानूंगा मैं, ये बाहर की गीता तो सब पढ़ते हैं, मुझे अंदर वाली चाहिए, right? So now the frequencies, the FM frequencies are all there in the air, right? But I need a radio, frequency modulation device which can, capture those vibrations, which can tune into those vibrations and give me that voice, that voice is there in the ether. Can you see it? No. Can you hear it? No. But you need the equipment. So that equipment is developed through the process of bhakti. So Krishna says again in the 10th chapter, 9th verse, no, actually 10th verse, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam ye namam upayanti te. Tesham satata yuktanam, those who are constantly engaged in thinking about me, absorbed in me, bhajatam priti purvakam, who render devotional service to me, who worship me, who chant my holy names, who hear about me, to such people, dadami buddhi yogam tam, I give them the intelligence. I come and whisper in their ears, this is good for you. Krishna gives the right intelligence. Krishna gives the direction. But for that, we need to prepare our radio. We need to prepare our equipment to receive Krishna's vibrations. We have been tuned into so many noises of the world around us that it's very difficult to hear the voice of the Lord within. So we need to tune out of all the noise and tune into the voice of the Lord. And for that requires, as Krishna says in the 10th chapter, that those who render unalloyed, uninterrupted devotional service unto me, I personally speak to them. So actually Krishna said in the 9th chapter, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti na priya ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. For 99.99% of the population, Krishna is situated as a neutral observer. As the Paramatma, he is not going to interfere, he is not going to his advice upon anyone. For the 99.9% of the population, he is just a neutral witness. But for the 0.001% of the population, which is tuned into devotional service, Krishna says, Maite teshu chapyam. He says, I am ready to intervene in your life. I am ready to give you suggestion. Right? So yes, externally, Krishna has given us the GPS through the Gita and through the Guru. Right? So the Guru, the Gita, and the Sadhus. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. So through these three, Krishna has given us his voice, his directions, and internally also Krishna will speak to us from within. The Paramatma will have a direct one-on-one advice conversation with us, provided we rendered his devotional service continuously every day. We make it a vow to chant a number of rounds. We make it a vow to hear about Krishna, read the scriptures, and whatever we do, yat karoshi, yat asnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi, yat, whatever we do it as an offering to Krishna, as was explained in the 9th chapter. Then Krishna takes charge of our lives and is ready to give us directions. So that's your GPS, God positioning system.
Thank you for giving GPS a new definition, Prabhu. As I've always said, you should have a list of all these abbreviations and trademark them as soon as possible, Prabhu, please. Having said that, Prabhu, you mentioned that subscribe to the Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and the understanding that they've provided. Of course, all of our viewers here, you must be on YouTube. You must have watched videos on YouTube. You may have subscribed to various channels. So we don't subscribe to just one channel, right? We subscribe to all these channels and watch some videos here and there of maybe this YouTuber, that YouTuber, whatever you like, and as per your choices, as per your whims and fancies. So what we tend to do is take the best of each YouTuber, be a honeybee who chooses the best in each of the flowers. Taking this understanding, do we need to commit to the path of bhakti, or how right or how wrong is it to be a freebie, take the best out of all the forms of understanding, people from all paths of spirituality, and rather than practicing just bhakti, you be a freebie practicing the best of all understanding? How right or wrong is that? What are your thoughts on it?
So, so the question is that do I need to commit to a particular path? Bhakti can be incidental, but do I need to commit to a particular path, a particular guru, a particular form of worship, or I just move around? I just, like a bee, moves from flower to flower. I कभी इस आश्रम में, कभी उस मठ में, कभी इस मंदिर में, कभी उस बिरादरी में जाके बैठता हूँ, थोड़ा भजन, कहीं पे ये भजन करता हूँ, कहीं पे वो वेदांत पढ़ता हूँ, कहीं पे कुछ कीर्तन में भाग लेता हूँ, तो कभी कुछ नारे लगाता हूँ, राइट? So सब चलता है. So why do I need to commit to one particular path? Do I need to really commit to one particular path? So now it's interesting that in this 10th chapter of the Gita, Arjuna is making that choice. He has decided to make a commitment. If you ask Arjuna says that, well, your choice, but I would like to make a commitment. And what commitment does Arjuna make in the 10th chapter? So let me read out the verse for you. The 12th and 13th verse. Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashwatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. So Arjuna is saying that, O Krishna, I have now come to this conclusion. He says, let me read our translation. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. O Krishna, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. Ahustvam rishaya sarve devarshis narasara tatha asito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bravishime. Arjuna says, all the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala and Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you yourself are declaring it unto me. Sarvametadritam manye yanamam vadasi keshava nahi te bhagavan vyaktim vidur deva nadanava. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have declared unto me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. So what is it that Arjuna is doing here? After 9.5 chapters of hearing from Krishna, what is it that Arjuna is putting forth? Is putting forth his conviction and commitment that Krishna, now I am convinced that you are the Supreme Lord, and to render devotional service unto you is the way to go, is my path. So did Arjuna do this step of conviction and commitment in the second chapter? दूसरे अध्याय में अर्जुन ने बोला नहीं. तीसरे अध्याय में प्रश्न पूछा अर्जुन ने, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा है आप जो बोल रहे हैं, doesn't make sense to me. Path of on one hand you say बुद्धि योगा, on another hand you engage me in ghastly warfare. मुझे नहीं जमता है, आपका क्लैरिटी नहीं है आपके इंस्ट्रक्शन. Then Krishna clarifies. Then fourth chapter, does Arjuna say, nahin, you are the Supreme Lord and I will practice what you say? Nahin. Even fourth chapter, Arjuna doesn't say this. Fifth chapter, no, he asks a question. Sixth chapter, he asks a question. Seventh, eighth, ninth, he didn't make a conviction or a commitment statement. But here he made it, which is quite revealing for any spiritualist or transcendentalist, that as a seeker, you are not, there is no compulsion on you to, as soon as possible, make a conviction and a commitment. There is no such compulsion to, somehow or the other, just to be on the social scene, just to prove to others that I am also on the spiritual path. मैं भी एक झंडा लेके खड़े हो जाऊं. Although I don't know what is the meaning of that flag, but still, just because everyone is holding a flag, I also need to have a flag. No, Arjuna, as an intelligent and thoughtful person, he inquired, he asked questions, he examined the philosophy which Krishna was telling. But after sufficient examination, after sufficient queries, questions, and answers, when he found it that whatever Krishna is telling is, number one, reasonable. It fits the criteria of reason and logic. Whatever Krishna is telling is sensible. It's reasonable. Number two, it's verifiable. That when you practice this bhakti, you yourself get those results. As Krishna says in the 9th chapter, Susukham kartum avyayam. Arjuna, you don't have to wait for me to tell you. You practice this, you will get the realization yourself. So it's not just reasonable and sensible, it's also verifiable. And third thing is, it is approved. That the self-realized people in the past have approved that path. When any path passes through this 3 filter test, that it is reasonable, it is verifiable, and then it is approved by transcendentalist, spiritualist, self-realized people of the past, then past or even the present, then it's the time for you to make a commitment. You have no reason to not make a commitment, right? And of course, there are many bona fide paths and there are more unmona-fide paths too. But if you have reached a bona fide path, which is verifiable, which is sensible or reasonable, and which is approved, then you should not delay further making that conviction and commitment. Because if you are that honeybee, or someone trying to dig, 20 feet idhar khoda, 30 feet udhar khoda, 5 feet idhar khoda, 2 feet idhar khoda. So you may have like effectively, cumulatively done 150 feet, but not yet found water. So similarly, if we just go here, do something, hear something, do some bhajans here, hear some lecture there. So then we are like digging 5 feet, 6 feet. Effectively, we have spent a lot of time, but that doesn't reflect into the depth of our spiritual realization. We won't have touched spiritual realization still, even after digging so much, because we have not dug enough in the right place. So if you have found out the right place, it's time for you to dig deeper. It's time for you to make that conviction and the commitment and go for the kill. Go deeper into that particular path. Otherwise, the mind, its nature is that of a monkey, a prostitute, keep jumping from one to another. So there is no end to that. But you are also not. There's no compulsion also to immediately make a commitment. You should first really verify the path through whether it is reasonable, whether it is verifiable, and whether it is approved. And once you have done that, then give it a thought. You will be able to practice and perfect your life by going deep into one path rather than digging a little into many. So if you are really interested, take up a path and go on it, travel on it till the end, right? And you are talking of honeybees, right? अलग-अलग flowers पे जाती हैं, right? But उनका छत्ता तो एक ही होता है. They are also having their allegiance to one, beehive. So ultimately, you have to come to that one beehive, one path. So where all your energies are invested. So yes, Prabhu, that's the take on this question.
This reminds me of a scene from a Bollywood movie, Prabhu, by the name 3 Idiots, where the character named Rancho, he would attend classes of every field. कभी philosophy class attend किया, कभी physics class attend किया, कभी chemistry class. जहाँ मजा आए, मजा लूट लो. And that immediately brings this kind of an idea into the audience. Wow, how open-minded, he's keen to learn. But yes, as you expose the mind rightfully, that this tendency makes us work hard a lot but get nowhere. You've cumulatively dug 150 feet, but you've still not found water. So yes, thank you for that four tests that you've given: reasonable, sensible, verifiable, and approved by transcendentalists, which is sufficient reason, which gives us sufficient reason to commit to a path. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that wonderful understanding. And at this stage,
do you want to break the good news?
Oh yes, definitely. How can I not forget that? For all our attendees, there is a beautiful surprise which is to be unfolded. Rasikraman Prabhu being so generous to us on the occasion of us coming to the halfway mark, he's come up with this idea that why not next week we have a physical come online session where it's more of a hybrid mode, where those who are in Mumbai who can make it for a physical event at the temple next week, we can have a physical event, and those again who are joining us outside of Mumbai, you can continue the online format. But I insist all of them who are in Mumbai to take advantage of this event where we can all come together and have a better, whenever you congregate for a common path, it makes things much easier and a little more fun, where there are like-minded people around you. So for more details, I'll be posting it on the WhatsApp group. So yes, I
So yes, whoever can make it can come. If you have the time, can please join us. We will be doing it at our temple, ISKCON temple at Girgaon Chapati, near the Grand Road station in Mumbai. So we'll send out the address and the location. But those who cannot make it, it's perfectly fine. We will also we'll be streaming it live on Zoom and YouTube as well. So if you can make it, please do let us know so that we can make arrangements also. So
Thank you.
now, if there are any questions, should we take up? If there have
Yes.
anyone has any questions or comments, reflections, feel free to type in the chat box or voice it out directly, by unmuting
The stage
yourself.
is yours. The attendees, yes. The floor, the stage is all yours now. Maybe you can even look at the Facebook Live, Prabhu, if there are any questions.
No, there are none today. We did it on a different time and slot, so some people might not have been able to make it today. So we are done. We have gone halfway through the 10th chapter. We have covered till verse number 15th. So 16th verse onwards, actually Arjuna first asks the glories. He asks Krishna to tell more about Krishna's opulences so that he can develop more attraction for him. And then Krishna describes that how in every facet, every aspect of the creation, whatever splendor that you see, the strength of the strong, the intelligence of the intelligent, the beauty of the beautiful, among the mountains, I am the Himalayas. So all of those, the best of the best things in the world, Krishna says their bestness comes from me. So we will have a lot of discussion around these concepts in the upcoming class, upcoming session, the second part of the 10th chapter. So, so I think if there are no questions or reflections, we'll then give it a pause now, and then we'll reconvene next week, Saturday, 7 p.m. at temple and online, both.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your valuable time.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for wonderful class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suryadaksh Prabhu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.